Dave, you gotta put your batteries in.
Technical difficulties. Okay, we're good. Okay. Welcome to the Town of Avon Advisory Plan Commission meeting. If you are interested in having a copy of the agenda, they are available on the tables to the right of the audience. We will be conducting business as outlined on the agenda. From time to time, the board may deviate from the agenda. As president of this body, I will inform those in attendance of any deviations. This meeting is being recorded for the public record. Because of this, we request that personal conversations are kept to a minimum and that all cell phones are set to vibrate. All phone calls should be taken outside of the chambers. If you are interested in commenting during the public hearing portion of the Commission's deliberations, please sign up on the sheets located on the tables to the right of the audience. When your name is called, please step forward to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Please address your comments to the board and not to staff or to the petitioner. Your comments should relate directly to the case at hand. During the conduct of the public hearing portion of the Commission's deliberations, the petitioner will have 10 minutes to present their case to the Commission. Remonstrators will have 10 minutes to present objections to the petition. Persons in support of the petition, other than the petitioner, will have 10 minutes to present support for the petition. And finally, the petitioner will close the public hearing portion of the presentation with a 5-minute rebuttal period. Once the public hearing is closed, no additional testimony will be heard unless it is solicited by members of the Commission during the question and answer phase of the Commission's deliberations. Subdivision plat and development plan petitions are ministerial requests, meaning that if the proposal meets the requirements set forth in the town's development ordinances, the Plan Commission must approve the request. In the interest of transparency, state law requires that the Plan Commission hold a public hearing, even if the development proposal must be approved. Responses to public comments and questions may be given once the public hearing portion is closed. We understand that there may be several persons who wish to speak. In order to keep the meeting running in a timely fashion, we would request that you not repeat previous comments. Thank you for your assistance in facilitating a respectful, fair, and timely meeting. Again, welcome to our meeting, and please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let's take a roll call.
Ransberg.
Present.
Guggenberger.
Here.
Reed. Here. Spencer. Spencer absent. Zusen.
Present.
Pike. Pike is absent. Kaufman.
Present.
We have a quorum. However, I would point out that we have only 5 of the 7 members available tonight. So if you are a petitioner and are wishing to have your proposal heard by the entire board, you may want to consider requesting a continuance, which is your option. We move on to approval of meeting minutes, and this is for the meeting minutes from April. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes? And are there any suggested edits or changes?
I made one edit to the minutes after they went to you, but before tonight, and that Mr. Mason Pike was here and he was not in the list on your sheet there. So that has been corrected.
Any other changes, edits, spelling errors?
Make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
I'll second.
All in favor of approving the April 24th, 2024 meeting minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting minutes are approved. Okay. We now move on to the public comment portion of our meeting. This is the opportunity for members, community members who are present to comment on any items that are not on tonight's agenda. If you want to comment on something that is already on the agenda for tonight, then please wait for that section. But if there's something you'd like to speak to that is not being addressed already on the agenda, now is your opportunity to come forward. So would anybody like to speak about something not on tonight's agenda? Has anybody signed up?
There's one person signed up that I don't know which one they're here for. Doug Franklin? Okay. Okay.
Okay, that being said, public comment section of the meeting is closed. We now move on to any request for continuances or agenda modifications.
Good evening, I'm Attorney John Cross. My address is 13 North State Street, Greenville, Indiana. I'm here on petition ZA 2404 for the Wawa development for the petitioner Avon LLC. And in light of there being only 5 members present, we would be requesting a continuance to the June 24th Plan Commission hearing date, not only for the lack of the additional member, but also because the petitioner has presented a pretty thorough PowerPoint presentation, and understand that you know that they're right handouts, but feel like that will impede our presentations and want to go over. So for those 2 reasons, we would be requesting continuance.
Okay. Any commentary, questions, discussion? Any objections to the request for continuance?
No. Make a motion. I move that we continue ZA 2404 Wawa rezone to the June 24th Plan Commission meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor of continuing ZA 24-04? We don't need to do a roll call on this, correct? Just go ahead. Just, okay. All in favor of continuing ZA 2404 to the June meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries, and the agenda item is moved to the June meeting. You're very welcome. And the room clears.
Yeah, I think so. Let's see this. Shorter meeting, I think. Right there. Yep, the game just changed.
We could ask everyone to take their conversations outside, please. Okay, moving on to the next item, which is DPR 2404.
So if you want to get in your presentation package, which are the light blue colored ones, to the second case. And unfortunately, there's no page numbers.
And just for those who are present, as well as those who are following, we're having some technical difficulties this evening. So although this is being streamed, our presentation on the boards is not available tonight.
So this is a development plan review for the Avon High School tennis courts and parking lot addition, and they are requesting 3 waivers tonight. Let's see. The waivers are for landscape islands, to allow split face block on the exterior of the concession building, and to allow tennis court lighting levels above 30-foot candles. If you flip through past the history and the location, you'll get to the first map where you can see it's mostly green like this. You get close.
Getting there.
So the map that's highlighted mostly green, that's just showing you the zoning where it is a split zone of R1 and R2. The R1 is the main campus, and then the R2 is the area south of the dividing line there that's currently undeveloped. You can see the football field right in the middle of the site there, and the tennis courts would be to the south of that football stadium. If you flip to the next page, I have outlined where the tennis courts will be going on site. You'll see the football stadium to the northeast of that. Then the next page shows the tennis court layout. On the northern part of that page, you'll see two small buildings. The smaller of those two is already there. It's a utility building, I assume. And then the building just north of the tennis courts is the new concession restroom locker room building. So that's the building we're speaking of when we're talking about the split face block. The next page shows you the existing tennis courts that propose to be converted to parking once the new tennis courts are built. And also the existing parking lot that's to the east of the tennis courts that's going to be redesigned and become one large parking lot. The request for the landscape islands is on this page on the left side of the parking lot where the longer parking aisles are, or the UDO does not allow more than 15 parking spaces in a row to be located there without a parking island. The one all the way on the west is 21 spaces, and the ones in the middle are about 17 spaces. Given that it's a fairly minor deviation and the existing parking lot is going to have several landscape islands added to it that it doesn't currently have, we think the waiver of those islands is appropriate. The next page shows the area south of the new proposed tennis courts. It's highlighted there on an aerial and then shows a practice football field and 3 practice soccer fields that will be going in between those two neighborhoods, the established one to the west and then the newer one to the east. Then the last page of the exhibits is the elevations of what the building is going to look like. Staff is supportive of the split face block, primarily because it's going to be interior to the campus and not seen from any public streets. And it also matches the existing facade of much of the high school building. So that's the first 2 waivers, the landscape island and the split face block. The last one that I want to touch on is lighting. This was actually missed on the first review of the review when Ian completed it, but the ordinance limits sports fields lighting to 30-foot candles. I've done an extensive amount of research as to where that number came from, and I cannot find any rhyme or reason for it. I saw it duplicated in Hendricks County's ordinance, but I looked in all the surrounding municipalities, and there's no limit on the actual light of the courts. There's only a limit of how much spillage at the property lines the lights can go beyond the property. Our ordinance has both requirements. So it has a maximum lighting for the actual lights, the number of foot candles, and then the spillage beyond the property lines. It appears that most municipalities rely on just that spillage requirement, which seems appropriate. I did extensive research from high school sporting associations, not lighting companies, but associations, and got a range of what kind of lighting they thought they recommend for tennis court lighting, specifically tennis courts, not football fields or anything like that. And I kept coming up with a range between 50 and 75. And they're asking for an average of 55 here, with a high of, I think, 69, but an average of 55. But again, the lighting at the property lines meets the ordinance. So we are comfortable with this waiver as presented. And it appears from our research that this section of the ordinance probably needs to be changed because it doesn't meet with current standards for lighting. Therefore, we are recommending approval of the development plan review, or the development plan and all three waivers. The last thing I want to touch on is the trees that are located on the southern lot. On the aerial photo, you probably saw several trees. Staff has requested a tree study from the applicant, and they have just submitted that yesterday, I believe, and I have not had a chance to review it. But we have negotiations with them, as we've done with other developers, where we come up with a dollar amount for the trees that they cannot replant, and then that dollar amount goes to the Avon Parks Department. So the last condition of the approval is that that financial contribution be made in an amount to be determined by the town manager to the Parks Department. One final thing, there is a proposed new street that goes through this development. So it's East County Road 200 South Extension, and they will be dedicating the full 60-foot right-of-way that the Department of Public Works has requested. So that is part of the plans and also part of the conditions. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
When you did your research, I'm just curious, did you compare it to like the Plainfield High School tennis courts? I'm wondering what theirs is, because I've been to those, and for me, when I hear these numbers, it doesn't really say, oh, it's
Yeah.
this bright in my head. But
I've
been to those at night.
Yeah.
And I know how bright they are.
I did not do any research on the existing facilities at other towns' high schools. I only did what their ordinance requires. And I would presume that it meets their ordinance, but I did not interview or go talk to their facilities folks, no.
And their ordinance is kind of is the same as ours, or just has the edge?
Just has the edge. The only one that has the top number of the 30 is Hendricks County.
So there's two issues. There's the foot candles, which they are requesting waiver because they want to exceed our ordinances. But the spillage, there is no need for waiver because they meet the ordinances.
Correct.
So it's just the foot candles that were being,
Correct.
okay. And you said that you could find no supporting rationale for why our UDO has,
I cannot, I looked in old ordinances, I looked in research files, I don't know where the number came from. If it was just some research that somebody did when the ordinance was written, but I can't find anything to justify that.
and it
number.
matches what the county has, is that correct?
Correct, so it might have just been pulled from the county, or the county might have pulled it from us. I mean, it's written exactly the same, so somebody copied somebody.
But it's not consistent with what you have found in other athletic facilities.
It's not consistent with athletic facility requirements in Plainfield or Brownsburg or Zionsville. And I think I checked Greenwood as well.
Okay. On waiver one, basically they will have more spaces because they're asking to eliminate the landscape islands, correct? They're not making the spaces smaller. Okay.
And they're actually going to have more landscaping because they're retrofitting the existing parking lot to put more landscaping in. So the parking lots, the eastern side of the parking lot that doesn't currently have any landscaping is going to have landscaping added.
Okay.
So in the end, we're getting more landscaping.
No, right now there's nothing, and
Right.
they're going to be adding, but there'll be less than what the UDO would normally require.
Correct.
Okay. Any further questions for staff?
Did we get any comments from any of the neighborhoods adjacent to these proposed fields?
I did not receive any comments on this case at all.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll have the petitioner come forward.
Thank you, Planning Commission. This is Doug Franklin with Performance Services. So, Doug Franklin with Performance Services. Thank you, Planning Commission members. Just restating the petitions here.
Could you state your address, please?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yep. Performance Services, 4670 Haven Point Boulevard, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46280. Yeah, just requesting these three petitions, and we thank you for your time reviewing those and the questions that came up as well. Requesting one, the use of split face block on the exterior of the support building. That would match the existing support buildings that are already on site and on campus. Then the island, the waiver for removing the islands, the intermediate islands. We are still providing the landscape, but also it eases the snow removal and maintenance for that. And then the above the 30-foot candle for the tennis court lighting, as far as meeting that kind of 55-foot average for the foot candles on the tennis courts areas. We already meet the spillage requirement or kind of the bleed over of that at this time.
So real quick question. Do you know what the current foot candles are on the existing tennis courts?
Yeah, the current foot candle at the high school football field is over 50 currently right now. To play in a sectional, regional, semi-state event, that high-level competition, you're in the 50 to 75-foot candle range for the courts. Again, 30, it'd be very, very difficult and doesn't meet kind of really the standards set forth. Anything 30 or lower doesn't really meet the IHSA regulations.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Now that you're there, what about the softball field and the baseball field?
Yeah, so the softball and baseball fields, they have basically the infield is rated at around 50-foot candles, and then the outfield as at about 30-foot candles. So just a little lower foot candle level for the outfield area.
The only other question I had was, we are only asking for the 50-foot candles on the tennis courts, not on the practice football fields or the soccer fields. Is that correct?
That is correct. There's no lighting on the practice soccer or the football fields at this time. Yes, that's correct.
Did you say what the current lighting was on the current tennis courts?
I believe the current lighting on the current tennis courts is around that 50-foot candle mark.
Thank you.
Yep.
And on waiver B, having to go through the architectural standards, just to make sure I understand, you're just basically asking to use the same materials that are already being used elsewhere on the campus?
That is correct. All their support buildings on the campus currently are the split face block. And being in close proximity to all the other support buildings, we felt to stay uniform with the campus. And again, it is inward of the main campus building as well, just kind of maintaining that consistency in the look.
Any further questions for the petitioner? Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Sure. Discussion. Oh, I'm sorry, public comment. Anybody who'd wish to speak on this agenda item can come forward at this time.
We have none signed up to speak.
Okay, very good. Public comment for this agenda item is closed. Now we move on to discussion.
So it sounds like while the ordinance is 30, that's not what's been applied. So it kind of goes in line with where did the number come from? And I kind of agree, if the spillage meets the requirement, that
Sounds like the
key-
UDO might
seems
need
like
to be
the key
tweaked.
factor.
On that particular issue. Let's just go over, so we have three waivers. And the first waiver has to do with the parking. I agree with, we're going from no landscaping at all to quite a bit of landscaping, although it doesn't meet the technical requirements of the UDO in order to provide the parking. I don't think that this is an objection. I don't find this waiver request objectionable.
I make a motion to approve of waiver of development plan review, case number DPR 24-04 Avon High School tennis courts and parking lot addition waiver A. I move that we approve the waiver request of Avon UDO 6.11G to allow for more than 15 adjacent spaces without a parking island, since it has satisfied all the requirements for waivers under state law and subject to approved findings of fact.
Second.
Okay, let's take a vote.
Ransford,
4,
Gutenberger,
4.
Reed,
4.
Susan,
4.
Kaufman,
4.
okay, that particular motion has passed. Let's move on to waiver B, which has to do with the architectural standards and a request to be allowed to get a waiver from the architectural standards in order to allow the buildings to conform to what is happening on the rest of the campus. Any discussion?
I'd agree with what staff has written up here, the consistency of what's already built on the campus and it is in the interior. So it's not like we're seeing any visibility exterior to the campus. I think it's good to have that consistency within the buildings that they have. So I can agree with what staff has written up.
If there's any further discussion, if not, we'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the waiver request of section 4-8DC, the parking requirements to allow for split-face block exterior for the concession building, since it has satisfied all the requirements for waivers under state law and subject to the approved findings of fact.
I'll second.
Motion having been offered and seconded, we'll take a vote.
Ransford,
4,
Gutenberger,
4.
Reed,
4.
Susan,
4.
Kaufman.
4.
motion carries, and waiver B is approved. Move on to waiver C, which has to do with the lighting. And as Dave pointed out, this is, we've already had a little bit of discussion, but appears to be our UDO is inconsistent with both the standards for competition and what's happening elsewhere in the county.
I'm fine with it. Do we want to put a cap though on? I mean, we're just saying 50 feet, but there's a study that says 50 to 75. So. do we-
You mean candle feet?
And I think that's the average, right?
The average is 55 on their plans with a maximum of 69 at any given point. So you could say per the plans, and we'd be happy to.
I think that at the end of the meeting, in other business, we had to discuss modifying the UDO and do what you're implying there, Greg, of put what we would want in the UDO as far as a range to go to. As far as like capping it, I'd want to refer to the updated UDO, or at least not cap it too low. So go with the upper end of,
I believe
The
petitioner
range.
said that what we have now is at 50. Is that correct? You could step forward, please. You said the IHSAA has standards for lighting for
Yeah, so
competition?
in their 2022 guidelines, they're recommending in that kind of 50-foot candle range as far as the foot candles. Right now, I believe the tennis courts are at 50. The football stadium is above 50-foot candles currently, and then the baseball, softball, kind of the infield areas are right at that 50-foot candle. So we've got an average out through the whole space. We're right at 55 on the foot candles for the tennis courts.
Okay, thank you.
So you're approving the plans as filed. So anything above that would not be permitted.
I just didn't want us to get caught in a number.
Yeah.
Is it
Yeah.
50? Is it 55?
Right.
Is it 30?
They have submitted a detailed lighting plan, so they would have to comply with that.
And what is
Agreed on that.
it's 50 to 75 is what they've,
The top number that they've submitted is 69, but again, that's just like 1 point on the court. So
Okay.
I don't want to get caught up in a number either.
right.
We think their plans are, as filed, are compliant, and that, we didn't put a number in the
Okay.
condition.
I'll make a motion. I move that we approve waiver C of DPR 2404 of the section 4-8 DC parking requirements to allow for tennis court lighting levels above 30-foot candles, since it has satisfied all the requirements for waivers under state law and subject to the approved findings of fact.
Second.
Motion been offered and seconded. We'll take a roll call or take a vote.
Madam President, before you vote, if I may, I believe the recommended motion there mentioned section 4-8 GC. Is that what?
Yes.
I'm sorry. I apologize. That should be correct. It should be 6.10 G3.
Oh, did we have that on waiver B as well? Was that a
Yeah, I
typo?
was gonna say, we may need to go back to address that one. Instead of 4.8 DC, that one actually should be 7.10 I.
Okay, so hold on. Waiver B should be,
Should be Avon UDO 7.10 I as an Iggy.
and then waiver C should be,
Avon UDO 6.10 G as in George 3.
okay, so before we could move on to waiver C, Mr. Taylor, do we need to amend the motion? How would we address correcting the approval of waiver B?
We have a current motion, though, don't we have to act on the current motion first?
Yes. Then I'll come back.
Okay,
Yeah.
so let's resubmit the motion with the correct UDO reference.
So I'll modify my motion to the waiver request of section 6.10 G3 of the UDO requirements.
And I second.
Mansberg,
4.
Guggenberger,
4.
Reed,
4.
Zuzen,
4.
Kaufman.
4.
Okay, though,
So we need to back up the,
yes, so waiver C has been approved, and now we need to go back to waiver B.
I think you've already approved it and requested the substance of it. What I would do is simply, by consensus, the chair ask for consensus to correct the minutes to reflect the proper UDO section citation.
So I would ask if the board would by consensus approve the appropriate UDO citation in our approval of DPR 24-4 waiver B. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, and the correction has been approved. So all three waivers having been approved, we now move on to the approval for the development plan review. Is there any further discussion that anybody wants to have on this? And if not, we'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve PR 24-047, Avon High School Tennis Courts and Parking Lot Addition, a DPR development plan review to allow for the development of a new tennis facility, new concession restroom building, new athletic practice fields, parking lot additions, and utility improvements, subject to the conditions proposed by staff within the May 28th, 2024 Plan Commission meeting presentation, since it has satisfied all the requirements for a development plan review under state law and subject to the approved findings of fact.
Second.
Motion having been offered and seconded, we'll take a vote.
Mansberg,
4?
Guggenberger,
4.
Reed,
4.
Zuzen,
4.
Kaufman.
4.
And the proposal is approved. Thank you. There being no new business, we now move on to other business.
Yeah.
Looks like we have the Easton Grade Riverwalk.
We've had a request that if you are having discussion, to make sure your microphones are on. Somebody online can't hear.
If you pull your microphones closer. Yes, mine is.
Good evening.
Evening.
I'm here to ask for your guys' authorization. You have a plan commission resolution in front of you supporting, you guys will recall doing this. We've done it a couple of times, so I apologize that it's coming back another time, but you guys have actually approved this twice now. And this is actually a redevelopment commission effort to amend the allocation areas for the Easton Gray TIF district. And so the phasing of the development has changed. So when they do that, we have to go back through this process again. So you should have an exhibit, which is probably the best thing. I see it on Bill's desk. If you guys don't have it, I'm happy to provide you one. But you should have a, yes, exactly. You should have a 3-colored exhibit, which is just showing the different allocation areas. And so the Plan Commission's job, the Redevelopment Commission is actually the one who creates the allocation areas. So they have started the process. They have passed a declaratory resolution saying that they believe this is worthy of an economic development area. And there's actually, if you also remember you guys had a PUD amendment come in to add an acre into the development. So we're also adding that 1 acre into the development. And so those are really the two things we're doing. We're adding that 1 acre, and then we're just changing the boundaries of the economic development area. The Plan Commission's role is to, again, the same thing you guys have done before, is to determine that this is a reasonable place for economic development and that it meets the town's comprehensive plan. And obviously you guys have approved this, so your job here tonight is actually relatively easy. We're just asking you guys to once again state that this is consistent with an area for economic development and that it meets the intent of the town's comprehensive plan. So that's the resolution that's in front of you. There are several steps. The town council actually has to approve your guys' motion as well, and then it goes back to the redevelopment commission, who does a confirmatory resolution, and then it goes back to the town council, and they have to approve it as well. So you guys are the second step of a 5-step process to accomplish this goal. I'm happy to answer any questions, but we would request your approval tonight.
Any questions with regards to the resolution has everyone had an opportunity to read the resolution? Any questions for the town? This is just formalizing what we've already agreed to, basically, right?
Correct. And that's what it's changing, but that's what you guys have already approved the zoning and you've created the development. So it's all those steps have already happened. So this is really our ability to be able to capture it in the TIF and how we're managing it in the TIF.
Keeping it updated because we added that 1 acre parcel.
Exactly.
If we didn't approve this resolution, what's the impact of that?
That's a great question, Paul. I don't know that I should answer that in a public meeting. I would defer to the town council on how they may want to deal with that. But yes, we believe this is an easy approval for you guys. So hopefully you don't have an issue. We couldn't amend the allocation areas without
Right.
you guys doing it.
The process you laid out is defined by ordinance or law that has to go through these steps to.
Correct.
For all, okay.
Yes. Yep.
You were that kid in class, weren't you? If there's no further discussion, would like to entertain a motion.
I'll go and make that motion to approve the Easton Gray Riverwalk allocation areas as presented this evening.
I'll second.
Having a motion and a second, let's take a vote.
Ransberg,
4?
Kuchenberger,
4.
Reed,
4.
Susan,
4.
Kaufman.
4.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you. And this was for both the Riverwalk allocation area map and the Plan Commission order, right? For both? Okay, great. Committee reports. I know we had no BZA this evening or this month. Any other reports?
Redevelopment, we approved at our most recent meeting, several invoices. We had a Dan Jones update, widening update, and also a 100 South update. That's pretty much it.
Okay. Anything else?
I got 2 things. One is for the Wawa case. Linda, should we retain the materials that have been passed out, or will we receive new materials?
You will receive new materials. I don't want you to hold on to something. I'll likely update it with any changes or any updates and letters. I know it's paper, but
Okay.
I will likely update it.
Thank you. And then the discussion about the foot candles, what action do we need to take to start the process to look at modifying the UDO?
You just need to direct her to do something. She's already said that she thinks it should be done. So.
Yeah.
We have a list of ordinance changes. We're in the works of, things, immediate changes, typos, and then bigger things. And so we'll probably group them together and come to you with, a chunk at a time. And that's certainly on our radar.
So is that something that you have a calendar for, a schedule for?
We do not. Paul here is the one calling out for the roll call tonight. He and I have just started working on
Okay.
ordinance amendments. After this goes through, I don't see us needing to use this regulation in the immediate future, but I would say the typo corrections probably 3 or 4 months out, the bigger items a year before we get a full research and make sure we have everything we need to bring to you.
All right. Thank
I think
you.
this is something we anticipated too when the new UDO came out, is that you think you've covered everything, and then the school wants a new tennis court. So, but I'm glad that we have a staff that is addressing these issues. Any further discussion for the commission? If there's nothing further for the good of the order, this meeting is adjourned.